Hi there folks, Danford with Calibre magazine here again. I want to take a quick minute here at the middle of a range day to talk about some of the gun debate and what's happened in the last week since the last videos came out and where we're at, because there's been a few statements that have come out that we need to talk about. First and foremost is obviously the statement from the government. It wasn't widely reported, but it was reported in a lot of reputable sources, so I think we need to take it seriously. And that statement was again another unattributed, anonymous source within public safety, saying that the government is open to the potential of a handgun ban in urban areas and potentially beyond, but they expanded upon that to say that they're even examining potentially a semi-automatic firearm ban. So obviously that's a huge escalation, so it really reinforces the point that we as gun owners we really need to step up right now. We cannot take time. If you're not emailing your MP and contacting them and phoning them and trying to get appointments, contacting your gun club and your local gun businesses and getting them involved, you need to. You can't wait anymore. The other two statements were a bit more interesting, though. Not that that one wasn't interesting, but representing more of a change in tone, were two statements that came out of the Canadian Association of the Chiefs of Police conference in Halifax last week, as well as a statement from the Commissioner of the RCMP. For those that aren't familiar, the CACP has long been a proponent of gun control. They're very outspoken in their support of the Long Gun Registry in the past, and they've typically been seen as not a friend to the gun community in Canada. However, the new president of that organization recently said that Canada's gun laws are, in their opinion, quite robust, and additional laws are probably not going to solve the problem that we're facing with increased violence. What he would like to see is more effort put into studying this and seeing what would work, instead of simply throwing the proverbial spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks with gun regulation. Again, that represents a huge shift from the previous tone that group has taken. So I think we need to applaud them for that, and I think, it's something to think about. The second part was the Commissioner of the RCMP. The RCMP, being charged with regulation of firearms in Canada, this is quite huge, said basically the same thing, saying that additional gun laws may not be the best way to address this increase in violence, and that perhaps they need to look at other ways to allocate resources. Gang violence, with gang interdiction, at-risk youth programs, mental health programs, you name it, additional training, or perhaps just more police officers. But I think for both these groups to have made those statements is obviously a huge departure. These are, tectonic shifts in terms of scale, what this represents. And I was doing some thinking on why. And I think the conclusion that I sort of reached was one that it's an argument I've made numerous times, that when you're at this level, when you're at a top level, or commissioner of the RCMP or the chief of a police force, you're really a manager. You're looking at the resources that are available to you and the areas that you should put those resources into to get the best benefit. And I think, for these groups to be saying these things, you kind of have to reach a conclusion that potentially they're considering the fact that additional resources for gun regulation won't help, which would sort of indicate that potentially in Canada we've reached a point at peak gun control, where even the people that are in charge of gun control are saying, we've probably got enough, and that we should look at some other methods. So I think, for gun owners, it's a lesson. There's something to be learned here, where for future communications with MPs and whatnot, and even if you're just talking to, your brother-in-law at a local barbecue, to mention that the comments by the commissioner are incredibly insightful, and to mention, some of the disparity in resource management between these two. Like I've said before, $120 million a year spent on the firearms program, managing people to go through a daily background check and what kind of guns we can and can't buy, versus $70 million going towards the interdiction of organized crime across the country with the Criminal Intelligence Division of the RCMP. That budgetary imbalance that doesn't seem to make sense at a time when we're supposed to be worried about organized crime. And I think it represents sort of, potentially we've reached a bit of a tipping point where, people will stop looking at, hopefully, fingers crossed, will stop looking at gun owners and guns as the problem and start seeing that violence and culture and mental health aspects and all these other issues have far more to do with it. So just some random thoughts that I'd kind of been thinking about for the past week, and apologies for not getting a video up last week. It was super hectic, and as you can see here, we've been a little busy, and it hasn't been exactly pretty out. So hopefully going to get a few more up, though. So again, Danford from Calibre magazine. Thanks for watching. Hope to talk to you soon.